The Christmas lights were up, but it wasn't the most wonderful time of the year. Not for Samantha. It was Halloween night, and her elaborate decorations had vanished. Stolen right from her front yard. She knew exactly who was responsible. The neighborhood's notorious Karen. A bitter, entitled busybody who made everyone's life hell. But this time, Samantha had the proof. Security cameras had captured the entire theft in vivid detail. It was payback time. Samantha's knuckles gripped the steering wheel as she pulled into her driveway. The normally festive Halloween display was completely dark, every inflatable, strobe light, and carved pumpkin gone. Her heart sank as she rushed to the front door, fumbling with her keys. No, 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 she muttered, scanning the barren yard. This wasn't the first time Karen had targeted her, but it was the last straw. Samantha burst through the door, nearly tripping over her son, Aiden's discarded backpack. "Aiden, get in here," she shouted. Her 10-year-old came running from the living room, eyes wide. "What happened? Where are the decorations?" he asked. "That witch next door stole them. All of them." Samantha fought back tears of rage. "I'm calling the police." Aiden's face fell. "But Mom, it's Halloween. I was so excited to show my friends." Samantha pulled out her phone, fingers trembling. "I'm sorry, honey. We'll figure this out, I promise." She dialed 911 and explained the situation, trying to remain calm. The dispatcher assured her an officer would be dispatched immediately. Within minutes, a police cruiser pulled up outside. Samantha rushed to greet the officer, Aiden close behind. "Thank you for coming so fast," she said. "My Halloween decorations were stolen, all of them. I have security footage that shows exactly who did it." The officer, a tall, stern-faced man named Officer Reyes, nodded. "All right, let's take a look at that footage. Where's your camera system?" Samantha led him inside to the living room, where her laptop displayed the security feed from the front yard. She queued up the video, heart pounding. "There," she exclaimed, as the footage showed a shadowy figure creeping across the lawn, grabbing handfuls of decorations and shoving them into a large trash bag. "That's Karen from next door. I'd recognize her anywhere." Officer Reyes watched intently, eyes narrowed. Well, well. Looks like we've got our thief." He paused the video, then turned to Samantha and Aiden. "Do you two want to come with me to confront her?" Samantha glanced at Aiden, who nodded eagerly. "Absolutely. Let's go." As they walked next door, Samantha could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins. This was her chance to finally get justice and make sure Karen never messed with her family again. Officer Reyes marched up to Karen's front door, Samantha and Aiden trailing behind. He pounded his fist against the solid oak, the sound echoing through the quiet neighborhood. After a few moments, the door swung open to reveal a stoic-faced Karen, still dressed in her pristine khakis and polo shirt. She eyed the officer suspiciously. "What's the meaning of this?" she snapped. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Reyes with the Springdale Police Department. We have you on video stealing your neighbor's Halloween decorations," the officer stated firmly. "I'm going to have to ask you to come with me down to the station." Karen's eyes widened in shock, then quickly narrowed into a glare. "That's preposterous. I would never do such a thing." She crossed her arms defiantly. Samantha couldn't hold back any longer. "Don't even try to deny it, Karen. The footage is clear as day. You took every single one of my decorations." "I most certainly did not," Karen shot back. "This is all a misunderstanding. I'm a pillar of this community. I would never stoop to such petty theft." Officer Reyes held up a hand. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to insist you come with me. We can sort this out at the station." Karen glared at Samantha and Aiden. "This is all your fault, you troublemakers. How dare you accuse me of such a crime?" She turned back to the officer. "I won't be going anywhere with you. Now get off my property before I call my lawyer." Samantha felt her blood boil. Your lawyer? You're the one who committed a crime, not us. Karen sneered. We'll see about that. She slammed the door in their faces. Officer Reyes let out a heavy sigh. All right, looks like we're going to have to do this the hard way. He pulled out his radio. Dispatch, this is Officer Reyes. I'm going to need backup at 325 Oak Street. We've got a suspect refusing to cooperate. Samantha's heart raced as she watched the officer call for reinforcements. Part of her was thrilled that Karen would finally face consequences, but another part worried about what the stubborn woman might do next. One thing was certain. This Halloween was about to get a whole lot scarier. Within minutes, 2 more police cruisers pulled up to Karen's house, their lights flashing. Officer Reyes stepped forward, addressing the other officers. All right, we've got a suspected theft in progress. The homeowner has security footage showing the suspect, Karen Peters, stealing Halloween decorations from the neighboring property. She's refusing to cooperate. The officers exchanged a concerned glance. Understood, Reyes. Let's see if we can talk some sense into her. The 3 officers approached the front door once more, Samantha and Aiden trailing behind. Officer Reyes pounded on the door. Ma'am, this is the Springdale Police Department. We have a warrant to search the premises. I suggest you open up and cooperate, or we'll be forced to take more drastic measures. After a tense moment, the door creaked open, revealing a livid-looking Karen. This is an outrage. I demand to speak to my attorney at once. Ma'am, you're only making this worse for yourself. One of the other officers, a woman named Officer Nguyen, said sternly. Just come with us down to the station, and we can sort this all out. Karen scoffed. I will do no such thing. This is a clear violation of my rights. I pay my taxes, I follow the rules, and I won't be treated like a common criminal. Samantha couldn't hold back any longer. That's rich, coming from you. You're the one who committed a crime. The security footage doesn't lie. Karen shot her a venomous glare. That footage was obviously doctored. I have done nothing wrong. Officer Reyes stepped forward, his expression serious. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to step outside and place your hands behind your back. You're under arrest for theft. Karen's face twisted in rage. You can't do this to me. She slammed the door, the sound echoing through the quiet street. The officers exchanged a weary look. All right, let's do this the hard way, Officer Nguyen muttered. She reached for her radio. Dispatch, we're going to need the battering ram. This one's not coming quietly. Samantha's stomach churned with a mixture of dread and satisfaction. Part of her couldn't believe this was happening, but another part was thrilled to see Karen finally facing justice. As the sound of the battering ram pounded against the door, she gripped Aiden's hand tightly, bracing for the confrontation to come. The battering ram slammed against Karen's front door, the wood splintering and giving way. Officers Reyes and Nguyen burst into the house, their weapons drawn. Karen Peters, you're under arrest. Reyes shouted, Come out with your hands up. Samantha and Aiden watched anxiously from the front yard as the officers swept through the house. After a few tense moments, Karen emerged from the hallway, her hands clasped behind her back. This is an outrage, she shrieked. I demand to speak to my lawyer immediately. Officer Nguyen approached her, pulling a pair of handcuffs from her belt. Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. As Nguyen secured the cuffs around Karen's wrists, Reyes stepped outside to address Samantha and Aiden. We've apprehended the suspect, he said. She'll be taken down to the station for processing. You two should probably come with us to file an official report and provide your statement. Samantha nodded, relief washing over her. Absolutely. We want to make sure this woman is held accountable for what she's done. Aiden tugged on his mother's sleeve. Does this mean we can get our decorations back? Reyes offered the boy a sympathetic smile. We'll do our best to recover the stolen property. But for now, let's focus on getting this case on the books." He gestured towards Karen, who was being led to one of the police cruisers. "That woman isn't going anywhere anytime soon." As they piled into the back seat of the officer's car, Samantha couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. After years of dealing with Karen's entitled behavior and constant harassment, she was finally getting the justice she deserved. This Halloween was turning out to be truly terrifying for Karen. The drive to the police station was tense but quiet. Samantha replayed the events in her mind, still in disbelief that their security camera had captured the entire theft. She could only imagine the look on Karen's face when she realized her crime had been documented. Once they arrived, Reyes and Nguyen escorted Karen inside, leaving Samantha and Aiden to wait in the lobby. Aiden fidgeted nervously, while Samantha stared at the clock, counting the minutes until they could give their statement and hopefully get their decorations back. This was far from the Halloween they had envisioned, but Samantha knew that in the end, justice would prevail. Karen had finally met her match, and she was about to learn a very hard lesson. After what felt like an eternity, Officer Reyes emerged from the back, gesturing for Samantha and Aiden to follow him. They were led to a small interview room, where Karen sat handcuffed to the table, her face a mask of fury. "All right, let's get your statements on the record," Reyes said, taking a seat across from them. He turned on a voice recorder. "Samantha, can you please describe what happened when you discovered your Halloween decorations were missing?" Samantha took a deep breath, her gaze briefly meeting Karen's. "Well, I came home from work last night to find our entire display gone. All the inflatables, lights, everything. I knew right away that Karen was behind it." Karen let out a scathing laugh. "This is all a fabrication. I had nothing to do with the theft of those decorations." Reyes held up a hand. "Ma'am, please let the witness speak." He nodded at Samantha. "Go on." "I reviewed the security footage, and it clearly shows Karen sneaking onto our property and stealing the decorations," Samantha continued, her voice tight with emotion. "She shoved them all into a trash bag and carried them off." Officer Nguyen, who had been standing silently against the wall, stepped forward. "We viewed the footage, and it's quite damning. There's no doubt it's your client on camera." Karen shot her a venomous glare. "That footage was tampered with. I would never do such a thing." Reyes fixed her with a stern look. "Ma'am, we have you on camera in the act of theft. Denying it isn't going to help your case." Aiden, who had been quiet up until this point, suddenly spoke up. "It's true, Karen. You stole our decorations and ruined Halloween for everyone." His voice wavered, and Samantha reached over to squeeze his hand reassuringly. Karen's eyes narrowed as she regarded the boy. "This is all your mother's doing, isn't it? You're just a pawn in her little scheme to get revenge." Samantha felt her blood boil. "Revenge? All we wanted was for you to stop terrorizing this neighborhood. You've made life miserable for everyone with your constant complaints and bullying." "Enough," Reyes interjected, slamming his hand on the table. "Ma'am, you're only making things worse for yourself. I suggest you start cooperating before this goes any further." Karen opened her mouth to retort, but then seemed to think better of it. She sat back in her chair, a defiant scowl on her face. Reyes let out a weary sigh. "All right. Well, we have the evidence we need. Samantha, Aiden, I'll need you to come down to the station tomorrow to formally file your report and provide statements. For now, you're free to go." As they exited the interview room, Samantha couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. Karen was finally facing the consequences of her actions, but there was still a matter of recovering their stolen decorations. Samantha vowed to do whatever it took to make sure that Karen paid for her crimes, one way or another. The next morning, Samantha and Aiden returned to the police station to formally file their report and provide their statements. Officer Reyes greeted them, his expression serious. "Thanks for coming in," he said. "We've had an interesting development with the case. Samantha felt a knot of dread form in her stomach. What happened? Well, after reviewing the evidence and interviewing Karen again, it seems she's not the only one involved in the theft. Reyes explained. We managed to get a warrant to search her house, and that's where things get complicated. Idon looked up at the officer, eyes wide. Did you find her decorations? Reyes nodded. Some of them, yes, but not all. He paused, exhaling heavily. It appears Karen had an accomplice, her husband, George. Samantha blinked in surprise. Her husband. But I thought he was a nice guy. Appearances can be deceiving, Reyes said. George claims Karen coerced him into helping her steal the decorations. Said she threatened to leave him if he didn't go along with it. Idon furrowed his brow. Why would she do that? Reyes shrugged. Seems Karen has a long history of petty theft and vandalism in the neighborhood. She's been trying to one-up her neighbors for years. This was just the latest in a string of escalating incidents. Samantha felt her stomach churn with a mix of emotions. Part of her was relieved that Karen's husband was also being held accountable, but another part was disheartened by the revelation. So, what happens now? She asked. Well, we've recovered about half the stolen decorations from their home, Reyes replied. As for the rest, Karen and George claim they disposed of them. We're working on trying to locate the missing items, but it's not looking promising. Aiden's face fell. But it's not fair. They've ruined our Halloween. Reyes offered the boy a sympathetic look. I know, and we're doing our best to make things right. In the meantime, we'll be pressing charges against both Karen and George for the theft. They're looking at some serious fines and potential jail time. Samantha felt a small sense of satisfaction at that. Good. They deserve everything they have coming to them. As they left the station, Samantha couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. While she was glad to see Karen and her husband facing consequences, the thought of their missing decorations was heartbreaking. Idon had been so excited for Halloween, and now it was all ruined. But Samantha vowed to not let Karen and George have the last laugh. She was determined to find a way to make them pay, even if it meant going to extreme lengths. After all, this wasn't just about decorations anymore. It was about justice and making sure these two never terrorized her family again. Over the next few days, Samantha found herself consumed by thoughts of revenge. The idea that Karen and George had gotten away with half of their stolen Halloween decorations was infuriating. She needed to find a way to make them pay. Idon, on the other hand, was heartbroken. He had been so excited to show off their spooky display to his friends, and now all of that hard work was for nothing. Samantha hated seeing the disappointment in his eyes. Don't worry, sweetie, she said, pulling him into a tight hug. We'll figure this out. I promise. Idon sniffled, wiping away a tear. But it's not fair. Now my friends won't get to see our awesome decorations. Samantha felt a surge of protectiveness. I know, honey. But we're not going to let Karen and George win. They're going to pay for what they did. Determined, Samantha began researching everything she could about the legal process. She wanted to make sure Karen and George faced the maximum consequences for their actions. But deep down, she knew that simply relying on the justice system wouldn't be enough. One night, as she was scrolling through social media, an idea began to take shape. She saw a post from a neighbor about a Halloween decoration swap meet happening in the community center the following weekend. Suddenly, Samantha had a plan. The next day, she called the police station, requesting to speak with Officer Reyes. When he answered, she laid out her idea. I think I know a way we can get our decorations back and make sure Karen and George learn their lesson, she said, her voice brimming with determination. Reyes listened intently, a small smile spreading across his face. That's actually a pretty brilliant idea, Samantha. I'm impressed. Samantha felt a surge of confidence. So you'll help me pull it off? Absolutely, Reyes replied. Just leave the details to me. I'll make sure everything is in place for the big reveal. As Samantha hung up the phone, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. For the first time since the theft, she truly believed that justice would be served. Karen and George were about to get a taste of their own medicine, and this time, the tables were turned. The day of the Halloween decoration swap meet arrived, and Samantha, Aiden, and Officer Reyes were ready. As they walked into the crowded community center, Samantha's heart raced with anticipation. The room was filled with tables displaying all sorts of festive decor, from carved pumpkins and animatronic ghosts to inflatable witches and string lights. Samantha scanned the crowd, searching for any familiar faces. Suddenly, she spotted Karen and George browsing the offerings with a sense of entitlement. Samantha nudged Reyes and nodded in their direction. "There they are," she whispered, "ready to put our plan into action." Reyes gave her a reassuring nod. "Just follow my lead." He strode over to the unsuspecting couple, Samantha and Aiden trailing behind. "Karen, George, fancy seeing you here," Reyes said, his voice dripping with false charm. Karen eyed him warily. "Officer Reyes, what do you want?" "Oh, nothing in particular," Reyes replied airily. "I just couldn't help but notice some very familiar-looking decorations on some of these tables." He gestured around the room. Samantha watched as Karen and George exchanged a nervous glance. I have no idea what you're talking about," Karen stammered. Reyes simply smiled. "Really? Because I could have sworn those inflatable pumpkins and that strobe light looked awfully similar to the ones stolen from your neighbor's yard." Suddenly, a crowd began to gather around them, murmuring in outrage. Samantha felt a sense of triumph as she watched the color drain from Karen and George's faces. "This is an outrage," Karen shrieked. "We have done nothing wrong." Reyes held up a hand. "Ma'am, please calm down. If you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to worry about." Without warning, a familiar voice rang out from the back of the crowd. "Those are my decorations." Samantha turned to see Aiden, holding up one of the stolen inflatables. The crowd erupted in a chorus of boos and shouts, directed squarely at the cowering couple. Samantha couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication as Karen and George were publicly shamed for their misdeeds. Reyes stepped forward, a stern expression on his face. "Karen and George Peters, you're both under arrest for theft and destruction of property. We've got you dead to rights this time." As the officers handcuffed the disgraced couple and led them away, Samantha felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Justice had been served, and her family's Halloween would be saved after all. Aiden wrapped his arms around his mother, beaming with pride. "We did it, Mom. We got our decorations back and made Karen and George pay." Samantha smiled, ruffling his hair affectionately. "That's right, kiddo. And this Halloween is going to be the best one yet." As they walked out of the community center, Samantha couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Karen and George had learned a hard lesson. You don't mess with the Smiths and get away with it. This was one Halloween they would never forget.